stood before the massive window of her mother's palace ship, watching stars drift past like silver dust. Her reflection stared back at her, pale blue skin, dark eyes that seemed too large, the delicate ridges along her temples that marked her as royalty. She looked calm. Inside, her heart hammered against her ribs. "You don't have to do this," her mother said behind her. Empress sat on her throne, but she looked tired. 30 years of war had aged her. The Empire had been fighting humanity for 3 decades, and everyone was exhausted. Ships were destroyed. Soldiers died. Colonies burned. Both sides kept fighting because neither could afford to lose. "Yes, I do," replied. She turned to face her mother. "How many died this month?" His jaw tightened. 12,000 and humans combined. "And next month?" "More." Nodded. "Then I'll marry him. If my marriage can stop this, it's a small price." Admiral standing beside the throne made a disgusted sound. He was old military with scars crossing his face and rage in his eyes. "A small price? You'll bind yourself to a human. They're animals, princess. They fight without honor. They never surrender. They're winning," interrupted. Silence filled the room. It was the truth everyone knew but nobody wanted to say. Humanity was winning. Slowly, painfully, but winning. The Empire was stronger, had better ships, better weapons, but humans just kept coming. They didn't stop. They didn't quit. They fought with a desperation that terrified commanders. "The human representative arrives in 1 hour," said. "His name is. He was a soldier before becoming a diplomat." "A killer, you mean," muttered. Felt cold. She'd seen propaganda about human soldiers. Were taught that humans were savage, that they killed without mercy, that they enjoyed war. She didn't know what was true anymore. She just knew the war had to end. "Leave us," said Tu. The admiral bowed and left, though his expression showed he hated the decision. When they were alone, stood and approached her daughter. She reached out and touched his face gently. "I'm sorry," the Empress whispered. "I'm sorry I couldn't end this war another way." "It's not your fault," said. "It's just war. Maybe this is how it ends. Not with more fighting, but with 2 people choosing something different." An hour later, waited in the ceremonial hall. Her friend stood beside her, wearing the formal robes of a liaison officer. Had fought in the war for 5 years before injuries forced her to take a diplomatic position. She knew humans better than most. "What are they really like?" asked quietly. Thought for a moment. "Stubborn, impossibly stubborn, and they don't break the same way we do. A warrior fights until honor demands retreat. Humans fight until they physically can't anymore. I've seen them continue fighting with wounds that should have killed them. It's unsettling." "Did you hate them?" "I was terrified of them," admitted. "But I also respected them. They're not animals, they're just different. They feel everything more intensely than we do: pain, fear, love, loyalty. It makes them dangerous, but it also makes them capable of incredible things." The doors opened, his breath caught. Entered the hall, and he was nothing like she expected. He was tall for a human, but not massive. He wore simple diplomatic robes in dark blue. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Black hair fell slightly over his forehead. His eyes met hers, and she saw something ancient in them, something that made her think of deep water. He walked forward and bowed. The gesture was performed perfectly. "Princess," he said in flawless language, "thank you for agreeing to this union. I know it requires great courage." His voice was soft, gentle, had expected. She didn't know what aggression, barely controlled violence, but seemed like a scholar, not a soldier. "Ambassador," she replied, bowing in return, "I hope we can build peace together." "That's my greatest wish," he said simply. The ceremony was held 2 days later. It blended in human traditions, with representatives from both governments watching. Wore white robes covered in star patterns. Wore black with silver threads. They exchanged vows in both languages, promising to honor each other and the peace they represented. Throughout the ceremony, studied her new husband. He moved with careful precision, like someone constantly aware of his body. His hands were old burn marks, cuts that had healed into white lines. When he held her hands for the vow exchange, his grip was gentle, but she felt the strength beneath it. Admiral watched from the side, his expression dark. From the human delegation, several officials smiled, though noticed one older woman with military decorations had tears on her face. She wondered what that meant. When the ceremony ended and were married, officially, permanently, bound by laws of both their peoples, they would live together on Haven's Rest, a colony world chosen as neutral ground. They would be symbols of peace, watched by both civilizations. That night they shared a transport ship heading to Haven's Rest. The quarters were private, designed for the journey, sat on one side of the cabin, on the other. The silence stretched between them. "You don't have to be afraid of me," finally said. Looked up startled. "I'm not." "You are, it's okay, I understand." He leaned back, looking at the ceiling. "You've been told things about humans, about what we do in war. Some of it's probably true. Were you really a soldier?" "Yes." "Did you," she hesitated, "did you kill many?" Was quiet for a long moment. "Yes." The honesty shocked her more than the answer. No justification, no explanation, just truth. "Why did you agree to this marriage?" she asked. He turned his head to look at her. "Because I'm tired. We're all tired. Humans don't want this war. We never did. We just want to live, build things, raise families. But we're good at fighting when we have to be. Too good. And it's destroying both our peoples. Say humans enjoy war. Are wrong." His voice was firm. "We hate it. Every human soldier carries the weight of what they've done. When we fight completely. It's how we survived as a species. But survival isn't living. I want to live." Saw something in his eyes then, a deep weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. It was the look of someone who'd seen too much, done too much, and wanted desperately for it to be over. "I want that too," she said softly. Smiled, and it transformed his face. For a moment he looked younger, lighter. "Then maybe we can figure this out together. I don't know how to be a husband. I barely know how to be anything except a soldier, but I'll try." "I don't know how to be a wife," admitted, "especially to someone so different from me." "Then we'll both learn." He stood and moved to his sleeping area, giving her space. "Rest well. Tomorrow we start our new life." As the ship carried them toward Haven's Rest, lay in her bed and thought about the human she'd married. He seemed kind, gentle, maybe damaged by war but trying to heal. She felt her fear beginning to fade, replaced by cautious hope. She had no idea what really was. She had no idea what he was capable of. But she would learn, and when she did, everything would change. The war had taught to fear humans. Soon would understand why. Haven's Rest was beautiful. The colony world had rolling hills covered in purple grass, 3 moons that painted the night sky in silver, an air that smelled like rain even on clear days. It was home to 3,000 colonists, half human, half all people who believed peace was possible, and lived in a house on the edge of the main settlement. It was simple, built with materials from both cultures. Large windows let in the strange sunlight. 2 bedrooms meant they each had private space. The kitchen was designed for both human and food preparation. They lived like polite strangers for the first 2 weeks. Woke early each morning and went to the small garden behind their house. Would watch him from the window, seeing him kneel in the dirt, carefully tending the plants he was growing. His movements were precise, gentle. He treated each plant like it mattered. He helped the colonists when they needed it. Someone's water system broke, fixed it. A power generator needed repair, figured it out. The human doctor needed someone to lift heavy medical equipment, carried it without complaint. People liked him, both humans, and found him easy to talk to. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words were thoughtful. But he never talked about the war. The human colony administrator came to visit one evening. He was cheerful, loud, the opposite of quiet nature. He brought wine from Earth and bread from one of the families. "You two are the most polite couple I've ever seen," said, laughing. "Do you ever actually talk to each other?" Felt her face flush with embarrassment, just smiled slightly. "We're learning," said. "Learning what? How to live in the same house without speaking," shook his head. "Look, I know this is weird, arranged marriage, political symbol, all that, but you're allowed to be actual people, you know, have conversations, argue, laugh, something." After left and sat in awkward silence, finally spoke. "He's right, we barely know each other." "What do you want to know?" asked. "Everything, anything," she gestured helplessly. "I don't know what you like, what you think about, what makes you happy. We're married, but we're strangers." Considered this. "I like gardening. It reminds me that things can grow instead of dying. I think about the future a lot, what kind of world we can build if peace holds. And I'm happy when things are quiet, when there's no crisis, no emergency, just ordinary life." "You want boring?" asked, surprised. "Boring is underrated," said seriously. "Boring means nobody's dying. After 30 years of war, boring sounds like paradise." Thought about that. In the Empire, excitement and glory were valued. Warriors were celebrated. Peace was considered soft. But who had been a soldier wanted nothing more than a quiet life. "What about you?" asked. "What makes Princess happy?" "Poetry," she said immediately. "Poetry, especially the old classics, the ones about stars and time and the connections between all things." "Teach me some," said. So she did. That night and many nights after taught her favorite poems. He was a good student, listening carefully, asking questions about meanings and metaphors. He had a gift for languages, she discovered. He could replicate the tonal shifts that made poetry work. In return, he taught her about human food. He cooked meals from Earth, simple things but flavorful. Discovered she liked human spices, the way their food was bold instead of subtle. Slowly, carefully, they built something. Not romance, not yet, but friendship, understanding. They learned each other's rhythms, preferences, boundaries, liked silence in the mornings, needed conversation in the evenings. They adapted. Visited regularly, checking on. She'd been assigned to Haven's Rest as a liaison officer, helping coordinate between and human authorities. One afternoon, she and walked through the colony's market. "You seem happier," observed. "I am," admitted, "is kind, gentle, nothing like what I expected." "The war changed everyone it touched," said quietly. "Maybe he's trying to find who he was before the fighting, or who he could be after it." They passed a group of colonists, humans, and working together to build a new community center. Children played nearby, mixed groups who didn't care about the differences between their species. "This is what we're protecting," said. "This is why the marriage matters. If we can prove peace works here, maybe both our peoples will accept it." But peace was fragile, learned that the hard way. One morning, the young human security officer came to their house. He looked nervous. "Ambassador, Princess, we found something. A surveillance drone design at the northern perimeter. It's not one of ours." His entire demeanor changed. The gentle gardener vanished. He stood, his eyes sharpening. "Show me." They went to the security office, a small building in the center of the colony. On the screen could see the recovered drone. It was definitely military equipment, recent model. "Someone's watching us," said grimly. "The question is who?" "The purest faction," whispered. She felt cold. "They oppose the peace treaty. They think humans are inferior, that we shouldn't negotiate with them." "How extreme are they?" asked. His voice was calm, but something about his stillness made nervous. "Extreme enough to kill for their beliefs," said. "They've attacked human colonies before, small raids mostly, but if they know you're here, they'll come," finished. "They'll try to take me back, or kill me for betraying our people." We should increase security, said. Request military support from. No, interrupted. If we bring in military forces, it looks like we expect war. It undermines everything we're trying to build. He studied the drone image. How long until they might attack? Could be days, could be weeks, could be never, said. We don't know. That night couldn't sleep. She found in the garden, sitting among his plants under the 3 moons. She sat beside him. Are you afraid? She asked. No. I am. He turned to look at her. In the moonlight his face was shadowed. I won't let anything happen to you, or to this colony, I promise. How can you be so sure? If the purists come, they'll have ships, soldiers, weapons. What can we do? Was quiet for a long moment. There are things about me you don't know, things about what I did during the war, about what I'm capable of. Tell me, said. Not yet. He looked back at the stars. Maybe you don't need to know. Maybe nothing will happen and you'll never have to see that part of me. But something in his voice made skin prickle. There was a weight there, a darkness he kept carefully controlled. Were you important during the war? She asked carefully. In a way. Did you lead soldiers? Sometimes. Were you special forces, intelligence? What did you actually do? Stood up, brushing dirt from his hands. I survived, that's what I did. I survived when a lot of other people didn't, and I learned how to make sure the people I cared about survived too. He looked at her. That's all that matters now. You, this colony, this peace, I'll protect it. That's my job now. He went inside, leaving in the garden. She stayed there for a long time, thinking about the man she'd married. He seemed so peaceful, so gentle. But underneath there was something else, something hidden. The scars on his hands weren't from gardening accidents. The way he moved wasn't natural. It was trained, practiced, controlled. What had really been during the war? The surveillance drone had been active for 3 days before they found it. That meant someone knew exactly where they were, what the colony's defenses looked like, how many people lived here. It meant someone was planning something. Went to bed that night and held on to a small hope. Maybe was wrong. Maybe the purists wouldn't come. Maybe they'd found peace and it would last. She fell asleep not knowing that 3 warships were already on their way, carrying 200 soldiers who believed humans were animals that needed to be exterminated. She didn't know that their commander had orders to bring her home and destroy the colony as a message to anyone who supported the peace treaty. She didn't know that in 3 days, she would watch her gentle husband transform into something that would haunt her dreams and change her understanding of humanity forever. But she would learn. Soon, she would see exactly what humans were capable of when protecting what they loved. The alarm woke before dawn. It was a sound she'd never heard before, a deep, pulsing wail that made her bones vibrate. She stumbled out of bed, confused and frightened. Was already dressed, not in his usual simple clothes, but in something dark and fitted. He was moving through their house with quick efficiency, gathering items she didn't recognize. What's happening? She asked. 3 warships just entered orbit, he said without looking at her. His voice was different, clipped, focused. They're broadcasting demands. They want you to return with them. They say they're here to liberate you from human corruption. Felt her blood turn cold. The purists. Get dressed. Warm clothes, sturdy shoes. We need to move fast. She rushed to change while continued his preparations. When she emerged, he was talking to through a communication device. How many? Asked. Looks like 200 soldiers, his voice crackled. Drop ships are launching. They'll be here in 15 minutes. Our defenses can't stop that many. We're evacuating civilians to the underground shelters. Good, send everyone down. How many security personnel do we have? 23, but they're colony security, not military. They're not trained for this kind of fight. Send them to the shelters too, said. They'll protect the civilians from down there. There was a pause. All of them. That leaves the surface undefended. No, it doesn't, said simply. I'll handle it. You alone against 200 soldiers, his voice rose in panic. That's suicide. It's necessary. Get everyone underground now. That's an order. Close the communication before could argue. He turned to and his expression softened slightly. Come on, I'll take you to the shelter. Wait, grabbed his arm. What did you mean you'll handle it? You can't fight 200 soldiers by yourself. That's insane. I need you safe, said. That's what matters. You'll die. Maybe, he pulled his arm free gently. But everyone else will live. That's the trade I'm willing to make. They ran through the colony. Other colonists were already moving toward the shelter entrance. A large underground facility designed for emergencies was there, helping organize people. When he saw, his face showed relief that quickly turned to confusion. Why aren't you coming down? Asked. Someone needs to slow them down, said. Buy time for everyone to seal the shelter properly. That's not open for discussion. His voice cut through his protest like a blade. It was a tone that expected obedience. Get everyone inside. The shelter doors can withstand orbital bombardment. Once you're sealed in, you'll be safe. Appeared her face pale. She looked at then at, he's serious. I'm always serious about protecting people, said. Doctor was nearby, helping an elderly woman toward the shelter entrance. When she saw, she stopped. Her eyes went wide. Oh no, they sent you here, didn't they? Of all the people they could have sent. You know what I was? Asked quietly. Nodded slowly. I was a combat medic. I heard stories. We all did, she looked at. Your husband isn't just a soldier, princess. During the war there were special humans. Ones who, she stopped, shaking her head. Just keep him if you can after this. She disappeared into the shelter before could ask what she meant. The shelter entrance was a massive doorway leading down into the earth. Walked to the threshold. Above them, the sky was beginning to brighten with the false dawn of descending ships. I don't understand, said desperately. Why you? What are you? Looked at her and for a moment the mask of calm cracked. She saw exhaustion underneath. Ancient weariness. I'm someone who's very good at one thing. I'm good at surviving. And I'm good at making sure the people I protect survive too, no matter what it costs. Let me stay with you, she said. Maybe I can talk to them, make them see reason. They're not here to talk. He touched her face gently. They're here to kill. They believe they're righteous. And righteous people are the most dangerous kind. He stepped back. If I don't come back, tell everyone that the peace was worth it. Tell them humanity wants to build, not destroy. Can you do that? You're talking like you're already dead, whispered. I'm talking like someone who's been to war, corrected. Now go, please. Took's arm pulling her toward the entrance. Resisted, trying to turn back, but was stronger. Let him do what he needs to do, said urgently. Trust me, just this once, trust me. They descended into the shelter. It was a large space carved from rock, with emergency supplies and lighting. Hundreds of people were already there, humans and families with children, elderly colonists, everyone who called Haven's Rest home. Was at the control panel, sealing the door in 2 minutes, he called out. Everyone inside. The last stragglers rushed in, did a final, then nodded. That's everyone, seal it. Wait, said. The cameras, the external security cameras, they're still active, right? Checked his panel. Yes, but why? Show me, demanded. Show me what's happening outside. Princess, you don't want to see. Show me. Reluctantly activated the screens mounted on the shelter walls. Multiple camera views flickered to life, showing different angles of the colony. The main plaza, the residential areas, the landing field. And there, walking alone across the plaza, was. He'd gone to the colony's security station, a small building near the center of the settlement. Through one camera they watched him enter. Through another they saw him emerge carrying weapons. Not fancy guns or advanced technology, just simple rifles, ammunition, a few grenades, basic equipment. He laid the weapons on a bench and began checking each one methodically. Above, the sky filled with dropships. They were elegant craft designed for rapid deployment. 20 ships descended, each carrying 10 soldiers. They landed in a wide perimeter around the colony, tactical and efficient. Soldiers emerged, warriors in full combat armor, carrying plasma weapons, moving in disciplined formations. They were the best of the military, trained, experienced, dedicated. 200 against 1. In the shelter, people began to realize what they were watching. Whispers spread. Parents covered their children's eyes. Some turned away from the screens. Couldn't look away. The soldiers formed up in the plaza, a few hundred meters from where stood. A figure walked to the front, commander, identifiable by the distinctive markings on his armor. He activated a speaker system, and his voice boomed across the colony. "Princess, we know you can hear us. Come out peacefully and we will spare the human civilians. Refuse, and we will eradicate this infection from space." Stood up from the bench. He picked up one rifle, slung it over his shoulder, picked up another, checked the magazine. His movements were calm, almost casual. "There's one human left," announced. "Come forward and surrender. We have no interest in killing you if you don't resist." Walked into the center of the plaza, alone, unarmed except for the rifle he carried loosely in one hand. The formation shifted, weapons trained on him. At this distance, 200 soldiers could turn him into dust with a single volley. "That's far enough," called. "Drop your weapon." Stopped walking. He was perhaps 50 meters from the nearest soldiers, completely exposed. He looked small against the formation of warriors. "Princess isn't coming out," said. His voice was quiet, but somehow it carried. "Neither is anyone else. They're safe underground, and you're not going to reach them." Laughed. "One human thinks he can stop 200 warriors. You're either very brave or very stupid." "Neither," said. "Just tired. I'm tired of war, tired of killing. I came here to help build peace." He paused. "But you're not giving me a choice, are you?" "Your only choice is surrender or death," declared. In the shelter, watched the screen, her heart in her throat. Beside her, doctor made a sound, half sob, half prayer. "What is he doing?" someone whispered. "His job," said softly, "what he was born to do." On the screen's posture changed. It was subtle, a shifting of weight, a lowering of his center of gravity. His grip on the rifle adjusted. And his eyes changed. The gentle, weary look vanished. What replaced it was something cold and ancient, something that had seen death so many times it knew death's name. "Last chance," said. "Surrender." "No," replied simply. Then he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who just accepted something inevitable. "But I'll give you one. Leave now. Go back to your ships. Tell your purest leaders that peace is real and you're not going to break it. Walk away." "Or what?" demanded. Smile faded. "Or I'll show you why humanity won the war." For a moment, nobody moved. The soldiers stood ready, uncertain. Something about absolute certainty made them hesitate. Then raised his hand, and the moment shattered. "Kill him," he ordered. The battle began. Moved before the first plasma bolt reached him. His eyes couldn't follow what happened. One moment he was standing still. The next, he was somehow 10 meters to the left, behind a support column, and the plaza where he'd stood was melting from weapons fire. The soldiers advanced in formation, disciplined and professional. They fired in controlled bursts, covering each other, using proper military tactics. They were good, very good. It didn't matter. Appeared on a rooftop. Nobody had seen him climb. He fired 3 shots and 3 soldiers dropped. He was gone before they could return fire, the roof exploding behind him. "Spread out," ordered. "Don't cluster, find him." The formation broke into smaller groups, each squad moving to search different areas. It was the correct tactical decision. A single fighter shouldn't be able to engage multiple dispersed targets. But wasn't a single fighter, he was everywhere. A squad entered a building, sweeping room by room, dropped from a ventilation shaft behind them. 6 soldiers died before they could turn around. By the time their comrades arrived, he was gone, leaving only bodies. Another group tried to flank around the eastern buildings, met them with grenades, turning the narrow street into a kill zone. The survivors retreated, calling for support. When reinforcements arrived, they found only the wounded. And kept moving. In the shelter, 300 people watched in horrified silence. The camera feeds showed glimpses, a shadow moving, bodies falling, brief flashes of combat, but mostly they showed confused soldiers hunting a ghost. "This isn't possible," whispered. "One person can't." But Doctor shook her head. "You don't understand. Humans have different limits than us, are stronger, faster in short bursts. But humans," she gestured at the screen where appeared briefly, fired, vanished again. "They don't stop. They don't tire the same way. And the very best of them, the ones trained for this, they turn fighting into an art." "He's killing them," a colonist said, voice shaking. "He's killing my people." "They came to kill us," a human father replied, holding his children close. "What did they expect?" Couldn't speak. She watched move across the screens, and it was like watching something that shouldn't exist. He wasn't fighting like a soldier. He was fighting like a natural disaster, inevitable, unstoppable, brutal in its efficiency. Every movement had purpose. He never wasted energy. He used the environment, turning the colony itself into a weapon. Buildings provided cover and killing zones. Narrow passages became traps. Storage containers became shields. He'd lived here for months, learned every corner, and now he used that knowledge without mercy. The soldiers were brave. They kept trying. They advanced, cleared buildings, called out targets, but they were hunting an enemy who understood them better than they understood themselves. Had fought for 30 years. He knew how they thought, how they moved, what tactics they favored. He predicted their actions before they made them. Commander realized the truth halfway through. His 200 soldiers had been reduced to less than 150. Bodies lay throughout the colony. The wounded screamed for medics, and the human was still out there, still fighting, untouched. "Fall back," ordered. "Regroup at the landing field." It was another correct decision. Pull back to open ground, establish a defensive perimeter, use superior numbers to create overlapping fields of fire. But had fought for 30 years. He knew what they would do. The soldiers retreated to the landing field in disciplined order, covering each other, watching for ambush. They formed a circle around their drop ships, weapons pointed outward. 140 soldiers ready for anything. Except what came next. Didn't attack. He simply appeared at the edge of the landing field, standing in clear view. His armor, if you could call it that, was torn. Blood covered him, though couldn't tell if it was his or not. He'd lost one rifle, still carried another. He looked tired. But his eyes were alive, burning, ancient and terrible. "You're still here," he called out. "Why?" Stepped forward, his own weapon trained on. "Because we have a mission. We won't fail." "Your mission was to take Princess and destroy this colony," said. "You can't do either. She's protected. The colonists are protected. You've lost a quarter of your force. You're going to lose more, maybe all of you. For what?" "For the purity of our people," shouted. "Humans are inferior. You won this war through numbers and desperation, not honor. You fight without rules, without mercy." "You're right," agreed. "We are desperate. We don't have your strength or your technology. All we have is the absolute refusal to die." He took a step forward. 140 weapons tracked him. "You think we're inferior. We're just different. Fight for honor and glory. Humans fight for survival, and survival doesn't care about honor." He raised his rifle, pointing it at. One gun against 140. "Go home," said. "Tell your purists that peace is real. Tell them that if they attack it again, there won't be negotiations. There won't be diplomacy. There will just be humans doing what we do best, surviving and making sure our enemies don't." "You're one man," said. "We're still over 100 strong." "Yes," acknowledged, "but I'm a human, and you just learned what that means." For a long moment they stood there. The soldiers held formation but could see it through the cameras, the way they shifted nervously, the uncertainty in their postures. They'd come expecting to overwhelm a peaceful colony. Instead, they'd been torn apart by a single person. One of the younger soldiers, his armor scorched, lowered his weapon slightly. "Commander, maybe we should." "Hold position," snapped, but his voice carried doubt now. In the shelter spoke quietly. "They're afraid, warriors, and they're afraid of one human." "As they should be," Doctor said. "Do you know what humans call people like apex survivors? The ones who make it through every battle, every impossible situation. They're rare even among us. And the ones who survive long enough become something else. Something that knows death so well, death can't touch them." Watched her husband face down an army. She'd married him for peace, thinking he was a damaged soldier trying to heal. Now she saw the truth. Wasn't damaged. He was forged, shaped by 3 decades of war into something that could protect what he loved against any threat. And he loved this colony, loved the peace it represented. Maybe she thought he even loved her. On screen still waited, patient, ready. It was who broke first. "Board the ships," he ordered quietly. "We're leaving." "But Commander—" "That's an order," his voice cracked. "Board the ships now." The soldiers retreated to their drop ships, keeping weapons trained on. He didn't move, just watched them go. The ships began to lift off, engines roaring. Was the last to board. At the ramp of his ship, he turned to look at one final time. "What are you?" called out. His answer was simple. "I'm someone who wants peace, but I'll burn down anyone who threatens it." The drop ships rose into the sky. Within minutes, they had returned to the warships in orbit. Within an hour, the warships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the system. Stood alone in the landing field, surrounded by the evidence of what he'd done. Slowly, he set down his rifle. His shoulders slumped. The ancient fire in his eyes dimmed, replaced by exhaustion. He walked back toward the shelter entrance, his steps heavy. In the underground facility, unsealed the massive doors. Colonists began to emerge, cautious and shocked. They saw the bodies, the destruction, the proof of what had happened. They saw, covered in blood and dirt, standing in the plaza. He looked small now, just a man, tired and alone. Ran to him. She should have been terrified, should have been horrified. She'd watched him kill dozens of her people's soldiers. She'd seen him become something monstrous. But when she reached him, she saw his hands shaking, saw the pain in his eyes, saw that he was still the man who tended gardens and learned poetry. He said quietly, "I'm sorry you had to see that." She didn't know what to say. What words could capture what she felt? Fear and awe and gratitude and horror all mixed together. So she just took his hand, held it despite the blood. "Come on," she said, "let's go home." Around them, colonists stared, some with fear, some with gratitude, some with a new understanding of what humans could do when pushed. And high above, in the orbiting communications satellite, the battle had been recorded. The footage would spread across both the Empire and human space. Everyone would see what one human could do. Everyone would understand why the war had ended in human victory. Everyone would know that peace, protected by people was real. And maybe, thought as she led her husband home, everyone would finally understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to let the things they loved be destroyed. No matter the cost. The first thing did was tend to the wounded. Watched him move through the colony, checking on people, helping doctor treat injuries from the brief evacuation panic. His hands, the same ones that had killed so efficiently, were gentle as he bandaged a child's scraped knee. The same focus he'd shown in combat, he now directed toward healing. "Is he always like this?" asked quietly, "after fighting?" "I don't know," admitted. "This is the first time I've seen him fight." "But not the last time he's fought," said. She watched work. "He's compartmentalized it. The violence goes into one box, the healing goes into another. It's how human soldiers survive. They separate who they are from what they've had to do." "Is that healthy?" "Probably not," said honestly. "But it's how we survive. We're not built for war, princess. Our minds aren't designed for killing, but we can adapt to almost anything if we need to. That adaptation has a cost." By evening, the immediate crisis was over. The wounded were stable. The bodies of the soldiers who died were covered respectfully, awaiting decisions about burial. The colony's security systems had been restored. And the footage had spread. Found and in their house. Had showered, changed into clean clothes. He looked like himself again, quiet, calm, almost ordinary, except for the shadows under his eyes. "It's everywhere," said, holding up his communication device. "Every human network, every channel. Someone leaked the security footage. People are watching what happened here." "Can we stop it?" asked. "Too late, it's been millions of times already." Looked at. "The human government is calling you a hero. The empire is. Well, it's complicated." Took the device and scrolled through the messages. Human channels showed titles like Peace Defender and One Against an Army. They celebrated its victory, used it as proof of human capability. But the responses were different. Some called for its arrest and trial. Others expressed shock. How had one human defeated so many of their best warriors? Some, though, were thoughtful. They asked hard questions about why the war had really ended. One message caught attention. It was from Admiral, broadcast on official military channels. "I have watched the footage from Haven's Rest multiple times. I served in the war against humanity for 20 years. I led attacks that I thought we barely lost. Today, I understand the truth. Humans did not barely defeat us. They restrained themselves. If they had fought at their full capability from the beginning, the war would have ended in months, not decades. We did not lose honorably. They showed us mercy. This knowledge changes everything." "Your admiral is admitting defeat?" asked, reading over his shoulder. "He's admitting truth," said. "Value honesty above pride. When we're wrong, we're supposed to acknowledge it." More messages came in over the following days. Empress contacted directly through secure channels. "Are you safe?" her mother asked, her image flickering on the screen. "Yes," said, "protected us." "I saw." Its expression was complex. "Daughter, when I arranged your marriage, I thought I was sending you to a diplomat. I didn't know what he really was." "What was he, mother, during the war?" Hesitated. "I've been asking human officials. They've been reluctant to say, but finally they told me. Your husband was what humans call a lone operator. Elite soldiers who work independently. During the last 5 years of the war, he was responsible for." "For what?" "For 73 successful operations behind lines. He sabotaged military installations, rescued human prisoners, gathered intelligence. He survived situations that should have killed him dozens of times over. The human military has a name for people like him. They call them unkillable." Looked at who was in the garden outside, kneeling among his plants. "He told me he did what he had to do." "He understated it significantly," said dryly. Then her expression softened. "But he also chose peace. He came to you not as a soldier but as a man trying to build something better. That matters, that choice matters." The conversation shifted to politics. The purist faction was collapsing. Nobody wanted to fight humans anymore, not after seeing what even one human could do. Public opinion in the empire was shifting rapidly from resistance to acceptance. "Fear can create peace," said, "though it's not the kind I hoped for." "It's not just fear," argued. "It's understanding. We didn't lose the war because we were weak. We lost because humans are strong in ways we didn't comprehend. That knowledge creates respect, not just fear. After the call ended, went outside. She sat beside in the garden. He was transplanting small seedlings, his movements careful. "Everyone's watching us now," she said. "I know. Does that bother you?" "Yes," he admitted. "I didn't want to be a symbol, I just wanted to be a person, but I suppose that choice is gone now." They sat in silence for a while. 3 moons rose over Haven's Rest, painting the purple grass in silver light. "Did you mean what you said?" finally asked. "That you love this place?" "Yes." "Do you? Do you love me?" His hand stilled on the seedling. He looked at her, and in his eyes she saw something vulnerable. The carefully controlled soldier dropped his guard for just a moment. "I didn't expect to," he said quietly. "When I agreed to this marriage, I thought it would be duty, a political necessity. But then I met you, and you were brave and kind, and you tried so hard to understand me even when I was distant. You learned my silences. You taught me poetry. You made me think that maybe I could be more than what the war made me." "And now," asked, "after seeing what you're capable of, are you afraid of me?" She thought about it honestly. "Sometimes, when I remember what I saw, but then I also remember that you were protecting people, protecting me. You didn't want to fight. You gave them a chance to leave. You did what you had to do, just like you said. And you can live with that. Can you?" Looked down at his hands, dirty from garden soil, capable of both nurturing and destroying. "I have to. It's who I am, both parts, the soldier and the gardener. I can't be just one." "Then I'll love both parts," said. "The man who fights like a god of war and the man who grows flowers, because they're the same person, and that person is mine." He smiled then, genuine and warm. "I think I'm the lucky one in this marriage." Over the next weeks, Haven's Rest became something unexpected. Instead of being abandoned after the attack, people started coming to it. Humans and who wanted to see the place where peace had been defended, who wanted to meet the couple who proved cooperation was possible. Took on the role of official liaison, managing the visitors, expanded the colony's infrastructure to handle the growth. Doctor opened a larger medical center, training both human and medics together. And slowly, the fear began to transform into something else. Military officers came to study human combat techniques. They asked questions about tactics, endurance, human psychology. He answered carefully, choosing to educate rather than intimidate. Human leaders sent messages of support but also caution. They reminded humanity that peace was the goal, not domination. The war was over. Now came the harder part, building something lasting. One afternoon, a ship arrived carrying ambassador, a human diplomat and counselor, a representative. They came to discuss making Haven's Rest an official joint embassy world, a permanent symbol of cooperation. The meeting was held in the colony's new conference center and represented Haven's Rest, along with End. "The footage from the attack has changed everything," explained. "Both our governments understand now that peace isn't just desirable, it's necessary. Neither side can afford another war." "But there are still extremists," added. She was older, with the bearing of someone who'd seen war firsthand. "People who believe in superiority or human. We need symbols to counter that narrative." "You want us to be propaganda," said flatly. "We want you to be truth," corrected. "You prove that an individual can be both powerful and peaceful, that strength and gentleness can coexist. That's not propaganda, that's reality." "And if we refuse?" asked. Spread his hands. "Then you refuse, you're not soldiers anymore. You're just 2 people trying to live their lives, but I think you know what's at stake." Looked at, he met her eyes and she saw the weariness there. He'd spent 30 years fighting. He just wanted rest. But he also wanted peace to last. For the children playing in the colony streets, for the families building homes, for everyone who'd suffered through the war. "We'll do it," said, "on one condition. We're not symbols of human superiority, we're examples of what cooperation can achieve. Both species working together, that's the only message we'll support." Both ambassadors agreed. As the meeting ended and the delegates left and walked back to their house, the colony had grown, but it still felt like home. Families greeted them on the streets, both human and living side by side. "Do you think it will last?" asked the peace. "Maybe," said, "if enough people choose it every day. If they remember that the alternative is war and war only brings pain. If they see couples like us and realize that differences don't have to mean conflict." They reached their house, their garden. The plants had tended were blooming now, human flowers and vines growing together, intertwined. "I married you for peace," said, echoing her words from months ago. "But now I understand something. Peace isn't just the absence of war. It's the active choice to build something better, every day, even when it's hard." "Especially when it's hard," agreed. That night under 3 moons they sat together in their garden. The war was over. The peace was fragile but growing stronger. They were symbols now, whether they wanted to be or not. But they were also just 2 people who'd found each other across impossible differences, who'd learned that love wasn't about being the same, but about choosing each other despite every reason not to. Watched her husband tend his plants, and she saw both the soldier and the gardener, the god of war and the man of peace. And she understood, finally, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their capacity for violence. It was their capacity to choose peace, even when violence would be easier. To protect what they loved with terrifying ferocity, and then return to gentleness. To fight like demons when necessary, and grow flowers when possible. That was what made humans truly dangerous, and truly beautiful. And that was why peace would last. Because it was protected by people who understood the cost of war, and would do anything to prevent its return.